Joining us now, West Virginia Senator Shelley Moore Capito, also the Senate Republican Policy Committee Chair. Good to have you this morning, Senator.
Thanks, Shannon. Thanks for having me on.
Okay, so not to get too wonky, this 2 bills versus 1 bill. This is the way the New York Times spells it out. It says some Republicans have argued they should pass 2 bills in order to quickly push through legislation focused on immigration at the southern border. But Republicans devoted to lowering taxes have pressed for 1 mammoth bill to ensure that tax cuts aren't left on the cutting room floor. What are some of the sort of logistical considerations on how you get this done?
I think the most important aspect of it is that we have a wonderful opportunity here with the president coming in and then control of the House and Senate. So we need to seize this opportunity. The American people are demanding it. I think that's what the election was about in November. So I think we want to have a success here. Whether it's 1 bill or 2 bills, I don't think it really matters as much as long as we get it across the finish line quickly and that it has the results of border, unleashing energy, taxes, and all of the things that we know that President Trump wants and that we want to make sure that we are moving in the right direction. And so I think you'll see this sort of iron out. A lot of it has to do with what the Speaker thinks can actually pass in the House. So we're waiting as senators to hear that and to see what the president thinks about that. He still wants a big, beautiful bill, but I think he does see the merits of a two bill system where you could push something through very, very quickly and get quick results. So we'll iron this out. It's not confrontational or anything. It's just how to get us across the finish line.
Well, one of your colleagues, Senator Lindsey Graham, a fellow Republican, is worried about potentially the optics of this too, and saying, you know, if there's a delay on getting the border done because you're trying to hitch a tax cut to it, he worries. Here's what he said.
I'm very worried that if we don't put border first and get it done, it's going to be a nightmare for our national security. If you hold border security hostage to get tax cuts, you're playing Russian roulette with our national security.
So what about that when the message has been from the right, every single day the border is a national security issue?
Well, there's no question the border is the #1 issue. I mean, we have 10 million people here illegally that's just been poured over our borders for the last 4 years. And the president campaigned hard on this issue, saying that he knows how to fix it and working with Congress, he will fix it. So I think you'll see a lot of executive orders at the beginning, but at the same time, we have it within our power to really make sure that his desires and our desires at closing that border actually become effective and efficient. And so I do think, and I've said publicly, that the two bill system makes more sense to me because we can do it more immediately and it can have maybe a quicker and more positive effect. But at the same time, we have to live in the land of the possible here. And I think so I agree with Lindsey that the border is #1, and the president believes that as well. And I do believe speed is important here. So I think we're going to pick up the speed. The president isn't even president yet. Once he gets sworn in on Monday, we will hit the ground running.
So one of the things, too, that you're going to have to deal with are all of the confirmation battles over his nominee. So I want to take through a couple of these if we can. I know you've met with most of them and many of them. I want to talk about former Congresswoman Tulsi Gabbard to head DNI. There's a man speaking out who's the executive director of the Syrian Emergency Task Force. It's a nonprofit established to respond to the attacks on civilians by the former dictator there, Bashar al-Assad. He had traveled with her to Syria, took her on a trip. He was concerned later that she went on her own without the assistance or notice to the U.S. government, taking pictures with Assad. He's been worried about some of her conversations. He now says this: as an American citizen, it concerns me. If Tulsi Gabbard is running our intelligence services, France, UK, Australia, they would not, if I was them, I wouldn't share intelligence with us, knowing that it might end up in the wrong hands. As a matter of fact, he says, I might even choose to share false intelligence, knowing that it could get back to Putin. You've had a conversation with her. What was your conversation like? Are you reassured with respect to past actions and statements regarding Putin, regarding Russia, regarding Bashar al-Assad?
Yeah, I mean, I think this is part of the Senate's responsibility, which is advise and consent. And when Tulsi Gabbard came in, we talked about principally Syria, Russia, and her opinions on the intelligence gathering procedures that she's questioned very deeply, and at one point wanted to have them taken away. She's changed her position on that, or clarified her position to satisfy me that 702 provision is extremely important. I asked her about Syria. I asked her how she got there, and she told me she traveled with former Congressman Dennis Kucinich, and that originally they were just going to go to Lebanon, and then they ended up in Syria. She said that she believes that Syria under that regime is a terrorist nation, and that that there were deep problems in Syria that could endanger, that were not favorable to us. And so she's explained, I think, a lot of some of the misinformation that's been out there, but she's getting ready to testify before committee. We'll see how she does. Okay,
so let's turn to RFK Jr. There's a group in West Virginia,
yes.
I believe it's called Protect Our Care, an advocacy group that's calling on you not to vote for him. They say that he's radical. They worry about his positions on Medicaid, Medicare, on the Affordable Care Act. Tell us what you can about your conversation with him and what concerns you may still have, or were your questions all answered?
Well, here again, the first thing I asked Robert Kennedy Jr. was about vaccination inoculations. I mean, I come from a generation where my parents took me to the elementary school and we ate a little sugar cube, and my mother was jubilant because she knew that I was going to be protected against polio. And so I believe that to be able to prevent these types of diseases is exceedingly important. He came back with he's not anti-vaccination. He just is he wants to have it science-based. And that's what he kept going back to. Let's have basic science to make these decisions. In terms of, I think he wants a healthy country. I think he wants healthier food. I think he wants a health system that works for people that need it and that want it. And so I came away from that meeting really very positively impressed, but at the same time, he will be in front of committee and these tough questions will be asked.
Well, we know there are many, many others that you've met with and that will work through the process too. Senator, we'll watch as that is front and center in the weeks to come. Thanks for your time.
All right. Thank you.
Hey, it's Will Kane. Click here to subscribe to the Fox News channel on YouTube. It's the best way to get our latest interviews and highlights. And click to subscribe to the Will Kane podcast for full episodes right now.